Mm-hmm.
They have been around since 1967. With 8 generations in 42 years, it pushed digital entertainment to a whole new level. Today, I'll be talking about game consoles and advancement over time. With long research and first-hand experience, my overall knowledge about the topic is vast. Gamers always want the newest and most improved game consoles, but to appreciate them just a little bit more, they need to understand just how these games came along and how they changed over time. Game console has changed over time in multiple ways, dealing with the controller, the graphics, and the overall quality of the gaming experience. The visual aspect of a gaming console is what grabbed the attention of gamers. With today's technology advancement, there is no limits to what graphics can do in order to match any gamer expectation. Graphics have changed how characters look and move, and the overall quality of any gaming experience. The graphics is a very critical component to a gamer. Without high quality, the gaming experience isn't as appealing or pleasurable as you can see. According to Jeremiah McCall, the first game console, the Atari, game could only display a resolution of 160 by 228 pixels. As you can see, that's not much. The graphics is really terrible. But believe it or not, this was pretty advanced considering the time that it came out. But as the management came on, the linear filtering made textures smooth and not pixelated. According to Jeremiah Vermeer, the graphics have evolved from simple line drawing to rich characters and good background. The newest game console, the PlayStation 4, has a resolution of 720 by 448 pixels. As you can see, that's 4 times greater than the first game console that ever came out, as you can tell by the graphics. Looks way better. But the controllers are a very important aspect to a video game as well. In the course of video game history, one of the most essential features of the console is the controller. The controller has changed over time to make a better gaming experience for his or her experience. According to William Liu, the DualShock controller on a PlayStation combined the directional pad and the joystick and a lot of buttons, 14 buttons to be exact. Back then, the joystick and D-pad were separated, and now they are combined into one controller to make gaming easier. Buttons are used to achieve more action in the game because of the upgraded technology. Without the buttons, all your first moves are irrelevant. But more variety of moves and combination create additional fun for the gamer. They have more advanced control features to take advantage of extra buttons on the still progressing gaming controls. Through the years, video games have advanced to include a variety of different avenues. Advancement has caused consoles to become more high-tech and allowing you to do a variety of things such as social media, emails, live streaming, and a whole lot more, featuring multiplayer. Multiplayer gives a gamer a whole new experience. With multiplayer allows you to test your skills around the world and play against people from everywhere. This also allows you to compete with friends and family. Another advancement that has more consoles to become more cutting edge is motion sensor games. Gaming consoles nowadays have live action games where you are physically moving. This makes you feel like you are in a game instead of sitting there pressing buttons. With today's new technology advancement, just as live streaming censorability, it just shows how much the whole gaming console experience has come a long way. Yes, sir.
Sydney, what did you think?
Um, you obviously knew a lot about your topic, but I didn't hear any citations from people who actually research, unlike your research, but people where you got your information. You seemed a little bored, but I'm going to say that's most likely because you're sick, because you can tell that you're sick. Then the visual aids that you had were pretty good. You definitely use them to your advantage. You probably should have hit slideshow though. That way they were bigger instead of just one with your slides on the side. Other than that, your speech overall was pretty good. You just needed citations and to seem a little happier. But good job.
It's hard to speak when you're not feeling well, and it sounds like you got an unpleasant cold, and hard to be a little chipper. But I know exactly what she means, that you sound a little bored because your voice is quiet. There's not a lot of variety and inflection. Those are delivery things. We're going to be working on those on the next assignment, so you don't have to panic about that too much here. Several things that you did well. I like the attention device. You had kind of this little suspense thing, and then you revealed what was going on through the generations. I like that. Your topic was clear. The goal was also relatively clearly stated. I did not really get a very strong preview at the beginning of the speech. Now, in the body of the speech, because of the visuals and because of the topic, it's pretty obvious how it's organized into parts, and so it's not hard to follow. I do think your transitions need to be a little bit smoother. Sometimes they just felt like you were moving to the next piece, like checking something off of the list, as I've said a couple of times before. I'm going to have to agree with Sydney. I appreciate your personal knowledge of the subject. I do think that you need to cite some information in the presentation more consistently. Is the change in the graphics and the pixelation and all that kind of stuff increased the popularity of the games? You mentioned that it allows people to do more things and engage in greater kinds of activities. I'd like to hear more about those kinds of things. It's a little bit like you're telling us all the possibilities without really showing them to us or explaining them to us, and I think I needed a little bit more content in regard to those sorts of things. The visuals were fine as far as they went. The first two I thought did a very good job contrasting the two levels of graphics that you're talking about. The third one is problematic, especially because it's so small it's almost invisible. I mean, it's hard to see any of those little teeny controllers that you're talking about, much less the buttons and the levers and the joysticks and all those kinds of things that differentiate them from one another. So that would have been one of those things where you probably needed to find something else or find a way to enlarge those images so that we could see them. And I think she's right. If you ran it in the slideshow, it would make the images a little bit larger. That's just a technical thing. To be honest, everybody seems to operate their PowerPoints a little bit differently. I don't always understand why that works. Sometimes people, they launch it from the top. There's a button up there that says slideshow. I've always launched it from the bottom tray of the PowerPoint where, there's just the icon that you click on. But everybody seems like they have a different way of doing it, and I'm sure there's another way of doing it if you're in Google presentation mode. So it was large enough for the first two pictures for the point that you were making. Like I said, the third one I think definitely would have benefited from being a little bit larger. All right. Well, that'll be